Hey guys, this is my behind the scenes of Today with Pastor Jay. And of course, I am in Savannah. Yes, I'm in Savannah. So there's that. My daughter's going to college here to get her master's degree. So she's moving in this weekend. So I'm in Savannah, and my phenomenal guest is in the studio. That will be Ed Danko. So in just a moment, we're going to begin. Mark, you ready?
Yes.
All right. Good morning, rise and shine. It is a brand new day, and you're tuned in to Today with Pastor Jay on WNZF News Radio. I am your host, Pastor Geraldine Denny, and every week we bring conversations that strengthen faith, challenge the way we think, and help us navigate what's happening in our communities and our nation. So today we're bringing the conversation right here to Flagler County because election season is upon us, and the decisions voters make locally can affect schools, our taxes, our communities, and the direction of local government for years to come. And my guest today brings a very interesting perspective to this conversation. Ed Danko has spent years in network news as a producer and editor, working with major news organizations, including NBC Nightly News, CBS Evening News, and CNN. But on November the 1st, 2016, Ed made a decision that dramatically changed the direction of his life. He walked away from CNN because, as he describes it, he no longer believed he could tell the truth the way it needed to be told. He later entered local politics, entered on the Palm Coast City Council, giving him a perspective from both sides of the microphone. He has seen how the news is produced, and he has experienced firsthand what happens when you become the subject of the news. So today we're going to talk a little bit about media, political narratives, local government, and most importantly, the upcoming elections here in Flagler County. Ed, welcome to the Today with Pastor Jay.
Well, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
You know, before we get into the upcoming elections, I think our listeners need to understand your background a little bit because you've had an unusual front row seat to both journalism and politics. Take us back to your career in network television news. What exactly did you do as a producer and editor,
Oh,
and what did
God.
that experience teach? Well, just give me a
Well,
little bit and why you walked
sure.
out.
Well, sure, absolutely. And you have to understand my background. After I grew up in a family, we owned several family businesses. So I grew up a conservative Republican my entire life. My first vote was cast for Richard Nixon. And I guess I'm giving away my age now. But after college, I went into the United States Navy because my father had served on a destroyer during World War II. And I felt an obligation, to follow in his footsteps. And after the United States Navy, where I did public affairs, I got a job working for NBC Nightly News. And from NBC Nightly News, I went to the CBS Evening News. I was also the editor of CBS's Face the Nation. And I took a buyout back in 2008. And then CNN hired me. And I spent 8 long, miserable years at CNN in Atlanta. And Atlanta wasn't the miserable part. CNN was. And finally, I got so tired of every time I would turn in a script, every time I would produce a story, to have these left-wing liberal communists, for lack of better words, tear apart my work and put their slant to it. I mean, it was just unbelievable. Everything was a left-wing liberal slant. And finally, having covered presidential politics, having covered Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, and just seeing the difference in our coverage at CNN. Finally, one day, I actually had a fight with our head pollster. And I kept saying, how many more Democrats are you going to add to your slant here to make your polls look like Hillary Clinton's going to win? Because she's not. And we know it. And we just had this screaming match, and I just said, I've had it. I've just had it. So I literally walked out November 1st, 2016. And I was only 61 years old. I'll be honest with you, I left a lot of money on the table, but I didn't care. I didn't need it. And I literally walked out and moved to my beach house in North Carolina. And I was done with the media. I just retired at that point. So that was kind of my background in news. And basically, I can tell you, if you're watching, CNN or what's it called, MS Now, I think if they switch the brand on it, if you're watching any of these networks, you're not getting the truth. You're getting a liberal slant still to today. And it hurts us all. We can't make decisions if we don't know what the truth is. And, all I can say is just do your homework, be careful, especially in election season, because there's so many politicians out there lying to you. I think we just saw this in Wisconsin very recently this week, where one moment I hate Thanksgiving, the next moment it's my favorite holiday, and, blah, 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 blah. They will say anything to get elected on a national level and also here on a local level.
Well, you eventually went from covering politics to actually serving in elected office on the Palm Coast City Council. Did being on that side give you a different view of journalism and political reporting?
Well, I got to experience the left-wing liberal coverage, especially from Flagler Live firsthand. But I knew that was coming. Look, if you enter politics, you got to have a thick skin, and you have to know that people are going to say things, and a lot of the stuff they might say is going to be untrue. So you have to have a very, very thick skin, and you just got to smile about it. And you got to try to get your message out there other ways to the public. Politics is tough. Keep in mind, no matter what you do, you may make somebody happy today, but you're going to make them angry tomorrow. Because when people don't get everything they want, they will hold that one thing against you. So I understand that, and that's just part of the game. And, as Harry Truman so wisely said, if you can't take the heat, get the hell out of the kitchen.
Ooh.
Well, true.
Now having experienced both worlds, how much influence do you believe the media has over voters' perspective or how they perceive a candidate before they even do the research themselves?
Well, they have a lot of influence, unfortunately, because let's face it, people aren't hanging around all day long, just looking at politics. They're working. They're raising their family. They're paying their bills. They're taking care of their life. And it's, they've got a busy life. So, they do rely somewhat on the media, a lot on the media, to point them in the direction to where to vote. I can't tell you how many times, just being up at the library, during the primary week or election day, people coming up saying, well, I don't know who to vote for. And I get it. They're very busy, and I urge people to take more time because you are being lied to a lot in elections by candidates. I think the only, recently the only real candidate I've seen to actually deliver on his promises has been Donald Trump.
And all right.
Has.
Well, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk to you about what your stake is, how Flagler County, how important these elections are, and what what they really should be paying attention to. Don't go anywhere. Don't touch that dial. You're listening to Today with Pastor Jay. All right, Mark, you good?
Let me take a sip of this water.
Okay.
All good.
I'm good.
Okay. Welcome back to Today with Pastor Jay, and I'm talking with former network news producer and editor and former Palm Coast City Councilman Ed Danko about media, politics, and the upcoming elections here in Flagler County. So, Ed, let's bring this home to Flagler County. I'm going to say, national politics gets most of the attention, but some of the decisions that have been made here locally have absolutely done something to you. You've been all over the place. You practically have made your own network out of your social media page. Why is that?
I have to tell you, I am totally disappointed and disgusted in our present city council, number one. They have accomplished nothing since I left being vice mayor. Oh, well, they have accomplished a couple of things. I shouldn't leave those out. They got our city involved in 3 major lawsuits that could end up costing us over $25 million. And we just lost the first one initially with the Home Builders Association. Now, I realize it's great politics for our city council to sit up there and say, let's increase those impact fees on those awful builders. The problem is there's laws in the state of Florida. And so if you exceed those increases, you're going to end up in court. which is exactly what happened. And our city just lost the first round. And I can tell you, you don't have to be a legal eagle to realize we're not going to win that lawsuit if it goes to the state Supreme Court. We're just not. The laws are very, very clear. And, again, it sounds good to say, oh, yeah, let's sock them with the impact fees. I get it. But you know what? Those impact fees are passed along to buyers, which inflate the cost of those homes. And yet the same city council is screaming we want affordable housing. At the same time, they're trying to force the builders to increase the prices on the homes. That was a stupid lawsuit. It never should have happened because we're not going to win it. We have two other lawsuits with two major developers, Elite, which is owned by BlackRock now, and then Douglas Properties. These are lawsuits each for $12 million. Now, if we end up losing these lawsuits, where's that money going to come from? City doesn't have that kind of money. What are they going to do? Put special assessment fees on taxpayers? I'm sure that's going to go over well. This council is clueless, and it's unfortunate, and I hope not a single one of them get reelected because they have failed our citizens. All you got to do is open up your latest water bill, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about, and it's true.
So do you have any favorites in this upcoming election for city council?
I'll tell you, my favorites are on school board.
Oh, really?
Oh, absolutely. And school board, it's so vital that you get out there and vote. We finally got rid of the liberals, or most of them, still a couple remaining on our school board. But we finally had it to a point where we had 3 votes that were conservative votes. And we started doing the right things. And my fear is if we elect one of these liberal left-wing Democrats back to school board, and we change that vote from 3-2 in their favor, we're going to see a lot of those things we wanted to get rid of come back again. So school board, the education of our children is the most important thing. And we don't need we don't need boys in girls' locker rooms. We don't need tampons in boys' locker rooms. We don't need kitty litter, in bathrooms for the kids that think they're a pet. We need solid education. We don't need dirty books in our school libraries. So it's very important you get out there. And I'm telling you, we need Will Ferry, 100%. Will Ferry back, 100%. We need Christie back. And we need Jill Woolbright back. Those are the 3 people we need back running that school board. Otherwise, all these things that you folks wanted to get rid of, they're going to be back again.
You're very passionate about this.
Well, it's our future are the children, and if they don't get the right education, and if they just get filled with a bunch of liberal la la land nonsense, we see it now in our universities. We see these young kids, that don't have jobs. They just have educations, and they're voting for, democratic socialists. And they think that socialism is a wonderful thing. And they really don't have a clue because they've never had to make a mortgage payment yet or, anything like that. They're looking for free groceries, from government-run grocery stores. And we all know that's not going to work. I've seen that firsthand, by the way. I spent a year in the Soviet Union during the fall of communism. You don't want to know what a government grocery store looks like. You don't want to stand in line for nothing, and that's something that we have to think about. So
those are your top
board.
picks.
Oh, absolutely.
Christie, Will, and Jill.
Those are my only picks. Absolutely.
Those are your only picks. All right, let's move over. Let's move over to County Commission.
County Commission. At this point, I'm certainly not in favor of Teresa Pontieri, as you know. She's done a horrible job on city council. She's out there actually lying to voters now. She's actually telling voters in her mailers, in her robotexting, and I just saw an ad in the Observer in their weekly printed edition. She's actually telling voters that she has lowered their taxes every year she's been in office. Folks, I urge you to go back and look at your taxes, and you find a year where you paid less.
Before you say anything else, I want to be full disclosure. I wasn't sure if you were going to, I would say, I knew you were going to talk about Teresa Pontieri on the show. So I did reach out to her yesterday and asked her if she would send someone that supported one of her supporters to be on the show today so we can kind of have a balance. So it didn't happen. I did reach out to Teresa Pontieri by text
Oh,
message. I offered her the opportunity to send someone to represent her. So I want to be very transparent with my listeners
oh,
and
that's
those that are
great.
watching
Yeah.
on social media. I did do that. So
I
go ahead.
wish
So,
I wish she would have shown up herself
well, she
because
can't.
I would like to ask her,
Well, she
where did
can't.
you lower taxes? Where? Show me. She didn't lower taxes. There's never been taxes that have gone below what you're paying in this city. The best we had a rollback one year where you didn't pay any more taxes. But there's never been a decrease in taxes, yet blatantly telling people that you lowered taxes because you pretty much think they're stupid and you think they're just going to read it and believe it. And
Well, when people say things like, look at my record,
yeah,
what kind of record should they be looking at? The voting record, spending, taxes, campaign promises,
all
what?
those, all
All
those
those
and
things?
more. Everything that tells you what their moral character, too, is important to look at. And again, to go back to Pontieri, and I'll throw in Nick Kloufis and David Alfin, I made a motion when I was on city council to start every meeting with a prayer, a simple prayer, like they do on Capitol Hill in D.C. or U.S. Congress, like they do throughout state
Hmm.
houses in this country and local governments, just to remind us. And it's a great reminder of really what's important as you make decisions. Who do you finally answer to? You answer to
Hmm.
God. So prayer helps set the tone, I think. Well, those three voted against prayer. Instead, they voted to silence you for a minute, because that to me is what a moment of silence is. It's
I have a
silencing
confession
God
to make.
for a minute. Yeah,
I have a confession to make, Ed.
go
I
ahead.
did not want the city Palm Coast City Council to vote for prayer. Let me tell you why. Not because I don't believe in it. I think we should have it. I didn't think there was enough Holy Ghost filled people that love Jesus on the council to handle it. I really and truly thought that the majority of the people, I'm not on the city council at that time, would allow devil worshippers, satanic people to come up in there. So I didn't want to risk it. I didn't think there was enough safe
And
people on the city council. Now that's my opinion. So I was concerned about that because if you open it up for one, you got to open it up for
well,
all.
actually, you
And
don't. You actually don't. I
oh,
had
really?
gone over this with our attorneys.
Uh
Um,
huh.
you, we could do it two ways. Number one, we could just have a council person say a prayer, and you could rotate council members.
Hmm.
Number two, you can invite legitimate members of the community that were in our churches, our pastors and our priests, and our rabbis, legitimate religions, to come and
Hmm.
do that prayer. Either way, you could do it like that. You didn't have to invite the Satan worshipers, or any of these crazy
But
cults.
you can't deny them.
Yeah, you can actually.
Really?
Yes, you can. They're
But
not.
again, under,
You write the legislation so it specifically says what you're doing. And
but
yes, we could
understand
have done it. And they do it all
back
across this country. Many
back
city
to my point.
councils, yes, it's
Back
done.
back to
And
my back to my point,
yeah,
Ed. I
yeah.
didn't think there was enough people, Jesus loving people on the dais to follow through with
Well,
any of
that's
that.
we showed we
That
proved
was
there
my
wasn't.
concern.
No, and
That was my concern.
your concern was great,
You
because
know,
here we had three people voting
they would have
against it.
allowed anything. I was concerned that they would allow anything to happen, anybody to do anything, because I mean, it's a lot of things that's happening. One way is this, one way it's another day. So I don't
Yeah.
want to use your word, but it seemed like a lot of. I'm not gonna say it. We're gonna move on. So let me
I know
push you
what you're
on something.
thinking.
I'm not gonna say it. Let me push you on something, Ed. People often complain about government after an election, but many of those same people either don't vote or they didn't research the candidate. How much
Yeah.
responsibility belongs to us, to the
Well,
voters, for the government we
ultimately,
ultimately get?
yeah, we are responsible. And ultimately, it does come down to the voters taking that responsibility. Unfortunately, not everyone does that.
Hmm.
Sometimes they do. We certainly saw that responsibility being handled when we reelected President Trump 2 years
Hmm.
ago, because we had seen the results of what happened from the previous election, which I still think was I still think wasn't legitimate, and no one's going to convince me otherwise. Which is another reason why, folks, if you're listening, a couple of important things. Save America Act. You've got to pick up your phone. You got to call Capitol Hill. You got to talk to your senators. You got to talk to your congressmen. We need the Save America Act. You can't go into a liquor store without an ID. You can't get on an airplane without an ID. You can't drive a car without a driver's license, meaning an ID. You certainly, fortunately in Florida, you have to have an ID that proves you're a citizen, but so many states you don't, and Democrats don't want this. Democratic leadership does not want this. Their actual Democratic voters, a majority of them agree with this, just like a majority of everyone else. But the leaders are afraid, if we require you to be a U.S. citizen, we're going to lose elections. So this is so important.
It's
also,
a lot. It's extremely important.
It is.
Last point, because I got to take another break.
All right. I just want to say that we have this amendment coming up on taxes. I urge you to vote yes. I can tell you there is a lot of waste in government. I have seen it. And we need to force these people to do what you and I do at home, which is tighten our belts when we need to tighten our belts. And government will be just fine. The services will be delivered. But when you look at the waste, and all you got to do is look at some of the salaries of some of the top people just on our city council, and you'll know what I'm talking about.
Do you have any favorite city council people running this time? Can you think of anybody?
Yeah, I like Tony Amaral. Tony's a decent guy. Yes, he grew up in this community. His family is part of our community. They've done so much to benefit, school children and everything else. So yes, I like Tony Amaral. I know a lot of people will say, "Oh, he's a builder. That's awful." And I what I say back to him is, well, so I guess you must have built your own house by yourself. You went out in the forest, you cut down trees, and you built your own house, right? No, a builder built your house. And Tony, all he does is build single-family homes and swimming pools. I mean,
that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
well, we got to take another break. So, hey, family, if you ever miss a broadcast, you can catch the show Rewind on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and X. And we're talking with Ed Danko about the upcoming Flagler elections. When we return, we're going to tackle something every voter needs to understand. How do you separate fact from political spin when everyone claims they're telling the truth? Don't go away. Don't go away. Don't touch that dial. I'm having bumble after bumble after bumble after bumble.
You're doing fine. It seems worse to you.
And listen, you know what it is? Listen, I'm over here. I'm looking at the river in Savannah. I'm ready to go put my swimsuit on and get in the pool. My husband waiting on me.
Is it nice in Savannah?
It's nice. It's cooler than it is there, but
it's raining
nice.
and cloudy here.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Here we go. Welcome back. Welcome back. So, Ed, you have the perfect background for this final conversation. We only got a few minutes. You've produced the news, you've edited the news, you've interviewed the news, you've been criticized in the news, you've criticized other people in the news, and you run for and held public office. So help our listeners become smarter consumers of political information. When voters see a political story, a campaign mailer, a social media post, even one of your own social media posts or advertisement, what should immediately make them skeptical?
Well, they should be skeptical of everything. I mean, let's be honest. If you're getting work done at your home, you get more than one bid, right? You get 3 usually. So you really have to attend public meetings where you have opportunities to question those candidates. You should be following their record. You can attend city council or county commissioner meetings. You can watch them on YouTube or Facebook. You can ask questions, and I urge you always to ask questions. You should listen to the debates. You need to do everything if you really want to make an informed, intelligent decision. You're going to get mailers. You're going to get robo-taxes. You're going to get things like that, and that's fine, but then you have to research them. When someone tells you they never voted to raise your taxes, you need to go back and look. I mean, I can tell you I've never voted for a tax increase. I'd rather drink antifreeze than vote for a tax increase. And that's the record, and you can go back and you can look at that. So check it out. And you know, every candidate locally, when they file with our supervisor of elections, they have a page on that website, and they have a phone number and an email address attached to it. Call them. You know, one of the things I always did was I handed out my phone number on a card. And I told people, you call me anytime, day or night. I don't care when it is. If it's really bothering you that much, it could be 2 o'clock in the morning. Here's my phone number. I'll get up, pour myself a glass of wine, and I'll talk to you all night long if I have to. And that's what you should demand from these people, because you're paying these people. They don't work for free. They're your employees. So please, if you haven't voted yet and you're waiting till Tuesday, which I know most Republicans are, and you have questions, go to the Supervisor of Elections website, find that candidate's phone number, and call that
And
candidate.
call them. And we got
ask
to
them.
wrap up. We got to wrap up. You know, imagine someone listening right now and they decide they're going to skip this election. They're not going to. Just tell them how important. Just take a few seconds and tell them how important it is to vote, because some of these elections are going to be decided on Tuesday.
Yes,
So just take a minute and just tell them how important it is to vote.
It's so important, especially with Amendment 3 on the ballot for our state, because a majority of people are going to vote to cut their property taxes without a question of a doubt. That's a no-brainer. So you need people serving on your county commission and on your school board and on your city council that can make the right cuts, because cuts are going to have to be made, and they're going to be painful, but we still want the services we need. So we gotta be very, very careful on these cuts. We gotta cut the waste, the actual waste, you know, and defunding the Flagler Humane Society, like certain people on our city council want to do, is not the right decision. That's not where the real waste is. So please look at that. And also on your local
And please
ballot,
vote. I want to tell them. I want to tell everyone to vote.
Oh, yeah.
Gotta vote.
Please come
You
out.
must vote, because some of these elections are going to be cited on Tuesday. You're not going to have an opportunity in November. You need to go out and vote. And I know we're out of time.
A lot of those candidates will be at the polling places. Don't hesitate to talk to them if you're still undecided.
That's a great idea. Thanks, Ed. I appreciate you for joining us today and bringing your perspective from the newsroom, City Hall, and the political arena to this important conversation. And to everyone listening, elections have consequences, but informed elections begin with informed voters. Do your homework, research the candidate, examine their records, look beyond the headlines and social media posts, and most importantly, vote. Because whether we're talking about Washington, Tallahassee, Flagler County, Palm Coast, Bunnell, or Flagler Beach, government ultimately affects real people, real families, and real communities. And remember, yesterday is gone, tomorrow isn't promised. What are you going to do today? Today, you're going to vote. Who they going to vote for? Ed?
Well, we're going to vote. We're going to vote for Will. We're going to vote for Jill. We're going to vote for Christy.
Okay, there it is.
Right there.
So until next time, guys, you're listening to Today with Pastor Jay. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.
God bless you.
Thanks, Ed. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
Have a great day.
You have an enjoyable time up in Savannah.
And thanks for reaching. Thanks for reaching out about coming on the show. I was going to hammer you, but you did so well.
Oh,
your restraint was so good. I was a little nervous when you. I was a little. You did well. Thanks, Ed. It was a good show. God bless you. Have a great day.
Yes, hello your husband for me. Have a great time.
I will. I'm going to get in that pool. All right.